share us. Go for it. Are we on? Are we live?
We are live from New
Are
York.
we
It's
we
Saturday
live?
night.
No, it's live from Chicago. It's Wednesday night. It's Wednesday night, Chicago, the last Wednesday of the month. And it's been a while. Hey, Craig, I miss you. It's been a while.
It has been, yes, since we've done this, or
been a long time.
Long time
Now
coming.
I'm singing a song.
Well, we kept having things. So we had the SharePoint Fest. Or
SharePoint Fest. Well, we had Power
365
Platform.
Chicago last week. So the last weekend of September. So instead of there, we were of here, we were there. And then
Educon. So both of us did that. Before that, I did the Power Platform Conference. We were just in one conference, have another.
Dallas
365. Jesus, we're busy. Gee, oh boy. Cheers, Mr. Craig.
Yes, I don't have one of those. I could get one of those, but I have not.
That's all right. You're a boss now.
No, they're just too far away, and I have to walk over to the refrigerator.
Oh well, this is exactly what the boss would say. It's
well, they're having a little. We had a little Halloween thing where were doing apple cider and Fireball. So.
Oh, geez, maybe TMI, but yes, that sounds fun. Now I'm like lamenting that I'm working from home with. And then
just they had Halloween cupcakes and things like that too. So, but yeah, no, it's been a while because there was 365 Educon Dallas that I was at, which was the last week of the month of August. So we didn't do the meeting. We did a July meeting, and then
we did.
Yes, we did. I don't know what we talked about, but we talked about something with the Power Platform, and then we had Ignite, and then we had. The Power Platform Conference.
Power Platform Conference first, then Educon Chicago, then Ignite.
Yes.
And that's what we're here about. We're going to talk about Ignite mostly, and a few other things as well. Now, mind you, we didn't promote this so much, so we don't have too many people here. Actually, we do have one. We have one guest in the audience. It's almost like he's like the star of the show. Had I been giving away like we did last time, remember I gave away a gift card, and there was a lucky winner for that one over here. Unfortunately, we need at least more than one player to have a gift card thing. And then, of course, my daughter's doing our streaming right now for us over here on YouTube. Is probably like, oh, well, if you don't need that gift card, we shall see. But otherwise, we have Raquel, my daughter, is behind the scenes there. She's our producer. Hello, Raquel. Say hi to YouTube like you always do. She's on YouTube a lot.
Hello.
There we go. That's Raquel. She's our connection to our youth, right? She's our millennial, our official millennial.
I guess I'm a millennial. Whatever 1997 covers. So.
I think that covers it. It was a very good year, I must say. Let's see. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's you know what? We're going to go ahead and talk about it, and we're recorded.
You're driving, come back and rewind. Whenever you want to move to the next slide.
I am driving over here. So yes, should we improve this slide? No, I think it's good. It's classic looking, right? Hey, yes. So I can improve it next time. Craig is looking at this and it's like, what the heck did you do to my slide? I said, well, let's see. Remember that part where we do Power Platform news? Well, technically
I forgot to do that anyways.
So. This is all about the news anyway. This whole thing is all about news. What's the point of talking about news when we're going to talk about news? So this is what it's all about, the Ignite recap, and I'm pointing that over there. We'll have questions if anyone's around. I'm going to look at the YouTube page if I see any kind of like chatter over there, or if Raquel sees anything, we'll let us know and we'll try to answer it live. Otherwise, I don't expect that there's going to be much questions other than we're going to question the meaning of life at the end over here and see if it's worth it. All right. Really quick introduction. First, let's say hi to Craig. Craig, say hi. Introduce.
Craig.
For the audience, for the YouTube audience.
WM Reply, Senior Manager. I take care of the Office 365 or Microsoft 365 technical practice here for Reply. So I have the North American squad. We also have offices in the UK, in Eastern Europe, and in New Zealand. So I get the US part.
Wow.
And then my next conference, I believe, is going to be in Naveen's neck of the woods, would be 365 Educon DC, which is going to be in June, around June 11th and 12th, I think, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
That far away? Actually, but you're also though you're doing hosting for M365 Chicago though. That's coming up.
Yeah,
11,
but I'm not
11,
going
22.
there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're not exactly going there, but the next one you're traveling to, what you say, is in June.
Yes.
All right.
But I forgot about ours, so yeah. We have.
Don't forget about ours.
M365 EduCon is on Friday, November 11th. So 11/11/2022.
Right. The and M365 Salute Services, actually. Your EduCon is the next one in June.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. Okay. We're just correcting that one really
Ralph,
quick.
tell us about yourself.
Myself, yes, Ralph Rivas, Sogeti, USA, Sogeti, a part of Gemini, however you want to say it. Apparently, I had to practice saying it and practice saying what the difference is between the companies, and I got a lot of practice at Ignite, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm, like I said, solutions architect, so what I do, and at the national level, I am not exactly a practice person like Craig, but practice does make perfect. Remember that. More likely, I will look at least at the national level, what's going on everywhere with what people are trying to do with Power Platform across the board. And because I have, of course, other skills in cloud and dev and all those pieces, I'm sometimes roped into those. Sometimes I'll bill. Most of the time lately, I've been handling the programs at the high level and have been, and thanks to the fact that I'm at a pretty good-sized partner, I actually get to participate at the high level with some of these bits that if I wasn't an MVP, I'm actually getting a lot of that same information. So that is my background over here to bring to the table. We're not exactly going to do a who's here unless Mr. Naveen wants to say hi and say, "Yep, I was here. I want credit." Do you want to get credit for this, Naveen? Do you want to say hi?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Say, tell us, Naveen. Naveen's a friend of ours. Please tell us where you're at. What do you do? And how was it that we talked you to get to come to this event?
All right. So this is Naveen. I'm a Microsoft 365 admin and architect with a federal agency here in DC. So yeah, just so excited to catch up with the Ignite news and see what's in there for all of us.
Wonderful. Mr. Naveen is obviously on the ball. He's catching all the different stuff. Everyone else was like, "Oh, that's dinner time. I'm not there." But Naveen, you are the winner for today. In fact, I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to give Naveen a gift card just for the sake of it. Naveen, make sure you put your email in the chat just in case. Just in case Ralph gets generous. He might. There's a big chance he will. Okay, great. Thank you, Naveen.
You could be our big winner of the day.
You could be our big winner of the day. And everyone who's catching this live, if you can figure out how to get to the Teams chat for this, boy, you might win something too. We'll see. All right, really quickly, our official group location is, in fact, for those that are online right now looking at this, this is how to find us. Powerusers.microsoft.com/ I wonder what the T5 is, / Chicago-Microsoft-Power-platform/GH-P. I wonder what that means. /PP_Chicago_user group. Well, that makes sense. I love these how do we say it, metadata into the file names and everything else that's in there. But yes, that's our link. Maybe you know what we should do next time. Let's put in a QR code for it next time. But otherwise, here's where you go: powerusers.microsoft.com and find us. And there's the new. I updated the picture. Did you see this, Craig? Look at this.
Yes.
Look at it. 722,000 members in the community, 430 user groups, hosting 112,000 solutions. Wow. And about 132,000 discussions going on. Actually, that seems small, frankly. I think there's much more than that going on in the community at large, but in this area alone.
Platform. But this is the newer Microsoft platform, so
indeed. So
making changes.
Changes. Okay, let's go see this.
Yeah, we only have 100 or so people in our little thing. We need more.
Yeah, so we have more
500
people.
on Meetup.
That's right. Oh, I brought that up, by the way, to the community guy. I was like, well, here's our problem. How do we migrate our people over? There's no real way. If we could have just brought them over and make it quick for them, because right now we end up having to send more than one email, and let's just say your tools are not quite there, and he took my suggestions. So knock on wood, Mr. Craig, maybe we will get help.
I've also given that suggestion to people. So yay for us.
Yay for us. All right, let's start off really quick. What's the difference between Ignite and the Power Platform Conference besides the city? Here's what the number one question that I've been getting after, at least internally for me and even with clients. They're saying, hey, what's the difference between those two? Because I sent some people to Power Platform Conference, and so I didn't send them to Ignite. Or I said I should send them to Ignite, and not the Power Platform Conference because that's in Orlando. I don't want them to have any fun. What's the difference, Ralph? So here it is. The Power Platform Conference and essentially those, I could call them those Vegas conferences. That's like M365 and some of the other ones. All right. Those are run by a third party. All right. Microsoft
Yeah, they
is
fool
the,
you though. They make it look like they're owned by Microsoft.
right. But that's because in all those cases, Microsoft is actually the main sponsor. And sometimes I ask Microsoft, well, are you actually promoting this and making this happen? They said, yeah, we love it. I said, but then when you go to their salespeople, it's like, well, but it's not ours. It's like,
Yeah.
and they make it very clear that it's not ours.
Or
but
if you're trying to speak. Yes.
Exactly. But when it's the platform people, when it's the product people, when it's the product people themselves or the community people, they will do their dangest to make sure that they get attendance and stuff that's going on because it helps them. And for one thing, because it's handled by a third party, it's sort of like an outsourcey way of getting the word out, right? So, of course, the caveats of that is that kind of conference will have no official announcements. However, they will tease the heck out of you. That's all I could tell. It's like, hey, yeah, and it's like we have all this stuff, but we can't tell you anything until Ignite. Otherwise, we have to kill you. That sort of stuff was going on. There was a lot of that. I was like, okay, fine, tease. You know, it's like back. It's like, here's this thing. No, you can't have it. All right, and then now usually focused on one aspect of the ecosystem. Now, this is the one thing though. Microsoft tends to like throw all when they're doing their conferences bigger. We'll see that difference. So it'll be M365 or Modern Workplace, for example, or Power Platform as the first one came about. But there's one for Visual Studio Development, and there could be various other ones that go in as well. I think there's for Dynamics. And then, of course, the third parties like EdgeCon and everything else will sometimes go and spread the love across the places. But a lot of them will focus more strictly on an aspect of it. So they won't like go in and try to be all right? Which is a good idea because then at least folks know when they're getting there what sort of people should be going and what to expect when you get out of that. They do get sponsors and everything else to handle them. So if you're looking for swag, actually, this is the place to go. For sure that you're going to getting swag as long as you have to take the time to go get it. What's Ignite? Okay, Ignite is an official Microsoft hosted event. There's only 3 that I know of that are totally official. And that is Ignite, Build, and Inspire. Inspire is for the partners to get together. It's basically sales. Build is for really developer focused. We're building stuff. And Ignite is sort of like a little bit of, in this case here, the whole ecosystem for the business and IT perspective, right? So there'll be development in there, but only really from that aspect of looking at it from coming from IT or coming at it from the business. It's not going to go there and show you how to get 400 level, how to program something. They might have a workshop for that goes in for that, but then they're serving another purpose. Somewhere up a level, they're serving the business or they're serving IT. Otherwise, you got to go to Build, and then they'll really get down and dirty on whatever low-level bits of the architecture you need to get through. Also, Ignite will have official announcements releases. And that's not to say they would have other releases and announcements beforehand. In fact, around the time of the teasers for Power Platform, there were some quote-unquote official announcements, but they were not made in conjunction with that. They were made because, well, it's time to, maybe they were like late, maybe like a few months late in talking about them. They came out. Here they are. They're out. We want to get it out of the way, and we're not going to really. We'll talk about it in Ignite, but it's not an Ignite thing necessarily. So that is the difference between the two. Okay, with that out of the way. Inspire, yeah.
Been in July lately, so 2023 will be probably in July.
Correct. I take a drink to wet my whistle over here. Okay, here's the thing. Have you noticed there's been, if you saw our last update that we talked about before, there's something that they tend to now have, and they've been having this since, what was it? Since they went into pandemic mode, right? The so-called Book of News. I don't know if Microsoft invented it, but this is something that seems to be very particular to the Microsoft conferences. The concept of the Book of News is their official announcements, and these will be huge. It'll be a whole bunch of stuff in book format like this, and this is where everything comes out that's official. So if it's not in the Book of News, it's not that it didn't happen necessarily, but it's not an announcement. It's not something new and announced. A session that talks about something that's ongoing is not the same as we made an announcement, here's something new, and now here's a session to go with it. That's different. But the Book of News, if we want to know what's going on really quick, outside of just the Power Platform and ourselves, this is what we're going to look at. In fact, look, I gave you guys a QR code to look at. This is what I'm doing from now on. You know how easy it is in Edge? You can click on top there, instant QR code. You can do it in the phone too. So right now, people that are online, go ahead, get this QR code right over here. Snick on it, or maybe let me go back. Let me go back a little bit. I'm going to go back to previous. Here's the link. You can go ahead and type in news at Microsoft.com. Is that pretty cool? Did it work for you?
Cool.
All right. Let me go straight to the Ignite thing over here. You know what I should have done to that thing? I should have put the link on there too. So when I clicked on it, it went, but I had to go back. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this book of news. That table of contents that you saw over there, here they are. Ooh, beautiful. Yes. Oh, and I scroll down and I have to get to what I need. And there we go. There's our Power Automate stuff. And I just simply go there, and I'm now at the beginning of the Power Automate stuff. Let me get back over here and click through and make sure that we're over here. Oh, let me go back over here. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So let me go back and let me tab. I'll tab to the Book of News. All right, let's look at the Book of News again. All right, what are our announcements? First one. A new way, Power Platform. A new way, Power Automate, to accelerate the automation using natural language will enable users to describe what they want to automate. Basically, what this is they're saying, speak to it, and this will happen. Here's what I like about this. Look at this. Learn more about this update. Let's open it in just a new window so we can see it real quick. This takes us to, look at that. It's an ak.ms P Auto Ignite 22. That's, I guess, how they track you from getting there. Let's wait for it. Done up, and there's the announcement. By the way, I got to talk and meet Steven Siciliano himself in person with Ryan Cunningham in person. It was with the company stuff, but hey, we talked about, let's just say I got a chance to be fanboy with them, and we talked about stuff that was not always company, and it went really well. But anyways, so for Mr. Steven, he is our friend for anything Automate, by the way, Mr. Craig, and he's our guy. And they talk about how to build it from examples. I want to deep dive this one, okay? So I'm just showing this over here just to tease you on where it is, but we're going to deep dive this in a little bit. So I'm going to put that one aside.
So my concerns about this one are that, is it the same as like that? Oh, you can do a sketch on a napkin and take a picture of it and create a form or draw it up in Figma.
Not the same. That is Figma. This one is actually.
I'm not saying the same, the same exact thing, but the same concept, and then because that didn't seem to be as good as they made it sound to be. Yes.
True enough, and of course that is still in preview, so that one still had some issues. In fact, let's go find out when we look at it. We're going to see how good it actually probably is. I'm going to deep dive that one. All right, next one here. Power Automate is introducing new ways for organizations to use RPA. What do we got? First, they're actually adding another starter kit. Oh, jeez, an automation starter kit. All right, so I'm going to deep dive that one for you. The automation starter kit that they're talking about over here is not the same as the starter kit that was created for the Power Platform in general. This one is more specific to analytics and for actual tasks that are specifically involved for automation bits. So they were saying, well, shouldn't that be in the regular starter in a regular starter kit as well? Well, the reason why actually it's separate is because it's just a huge body of work, and because they want to be able to do the work on this pretty much at their own pace. In other words, they don't want to wait in the dependency for the dashboard, say in the COE itself, the main one, to be updated before I can update my dashboard. They're doing it separately for now. Now they may come together at some point in the future. But right now, it serves everyone that this is separate. At some point, folks are going to come out with some ideas on how to blend them together. But do know at least that if you're getting this, you're not getting something that has already something located in something else. They actually made it the point that whatever they're doing over here is more specific to helping out RPA and automation and that stuff, and not something that duplicates directly something in the COE. Okay? All right, Power Automate expressions by example. Well, this is not quite the same as the other one where you talk about it and it comes through. In this particular case, you start writing the expression, you're taking an example that goes through, and then there's essentially the AI suggesting, maybe you want to say this. This is almost like, you might have heard of like Copilot in GitHub. If you go heard in Copilot and GitHub, the concept over there is like you're writing code, and all of a sudden the AI tells you, hey, you might mean to write this kind of code. Here's a better way of doing that. And you're like, wow, this is great. Copilot sort of like, and it's being used a lot, helps you write the code and puts the stuff together. This is almost like a baby version for that. The AI applying little suggested expressions for what you're trying to do. This is great because Power Automate, actually, if you think about it, those expressions are pretty arcane compared to like when you're trying to do something in Power Apps. It seems, I don't know why it seems simpler to do expressions there with Power FX than in Power Automate. Power Automate's not quite yet fully Power FX, so it almost looks like you have to try things out and they don't quite work. You don't exactly have the IntelliSense that is as helpful, or at least was, until now. Mind you, though, again, it's in preview, so it's still growing. What else? Here we go. Native Power Automate integration. Excel users get essentially access to Excel-specific templates for automation. Again, an update and preview. The concept over here, again, is Excel. Now, Power Automate with Excel before, when you clicked on the Power 8 button, you went to Power Automate, and then you were there from scratch. It'll give you the trigger, and that's it. You had to start, and you had to build stuff from that area. This one actually takes you a lot further into it. Let me go learn more about that update, because that's actually interesting. Let me go into the new tab. Did I do a new tab? I should have done a new window. Let's look at this one over here. Okay, we're going to talk about that one in more detail. The format by examples. So there it is, suggested expression. Oh, this one goes deeper into advancements into AI Builder. Actually, this one actually is really good, but that's actually, we're going to cover that one as well. New places to automate, SAP. Oh yeah, they're having a lot of more SAP stuff that's coming out. They did announce it, but a lot of that is still in preview, and they're still putting it out. Here we go. Automate natively in Excel Online. When you hit the Automate tab and Automate tasks, just remember, Excel used to have the record feature, and you can do those sort of stuff. Well, that's essentially taking that into Power Automate, and goodbye those macros that we used to do. All right, so that was the one I just wanted to show real quick. Oh, look, what did I do? I went to the wrong place. Let's go back to this one over here. Back to the book of news. Next one. Oh, here we go. Here's the intelligent document processing. The end-to-end document processing with no coding required. By the way, AI Builder and everything else costs, right? It's like $500 or some what feels like an exorbitant fee. The whole point, though, is if you're doing a process, you're automating and you're doing invoices and all that stuff. If you're a very small organization doing this, well, all right, it may not be cost effective, but if you're an organization of any real size, even if you're a small business and you're doing this enough, that cost might be worth it, especially if it eliminates a lot of work. In fact, my talk at the M365 Chicago conference will be about that, about the setting up ROI and essentially that cost analysis that says, okay, it's costing us this to do this now, and if we automate it, or if we do something in Power Platform, this is what it's going to now be worth, or it's going to cost there later. The problem is folks will say, oh, that sounds expensive. Oh, that license is expensive. But then you ask them, did you do the math? Did you look at it, what it was and where it's going? And you do the math, and it's like, well, not really. It just feels like it's going to do that. Well, you know, feelings are great. Feelings is a great song, but it doesn't answer the question. And that's what this is about, right? So that's automating. And let me go back over here to the feature updates, which is a feedback loop. In preview, it will give users the ability to continuously improve the outputs of this. And here's the concept, right? If you're helping the accounting department with processing invoices, well, imagine giving those users the ability to come back and give feedback and say, hey, you know what? Those invoices aren't really processing so well, and here's something we can do. And it essentially gives them it gives them now the ability to be part of the process right there, versus like having to set up a meeting with them and do all that stuff separate and going in to make it work. It's all built in there.
So Naveen commented in the comments that he heard AI Builder is expensive while processing large volumes of data. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's not supposed to be the volumes of data. It's not about volume. It's about the license to use it. You turn it on. It's $500 a month. Boom, flat fee, done. Right there, volumes of data. Where we're talking about volumes of data is if the data is living, say, in Azure. What you're paying for is either Azure storage or the compute time for the data to move or flow in and out of wherever it's going. Say maybe Synapse or one of those where data is coming through and going, all that stuff. That's a different cost. It should not be considered part of that AI cost or anything else. It may be part of the solution cost, yes. But if someone is saying that AI costs a lot because of volume, then they miss the point, because the whole point of Power Platform is it's packaged. It gives you a certain amount of things you can do API wise, even volume wise, for the price. If you exceed that, then either you have to go to Azure to do it pay as you go, or sometimes you can buy capacity, like say more Dataverse space, right? What if say all your documents say are in SharePoint or in OneDrive, wherever that's going. All right, fine. Or let's say it's in a blob storage. Well, you're paying for that blob storage, and you're paying pennies on the pennies for that to go. And I'm just dealing with it. I have my premium connection. Well, I'm paying $500 for it. What does that give you? Premium connection. So you can pretty much take care of it and handle it. So again, if you're hearing that it's costing somewhere, that would be pretty good. Do let us know if you've heard of a cost from somewhere. Someone says, hey, we did 10,000 documents and it cost us a certain amount, but when that person did 1,000 documents, it cost them less. That is a story I would like to hear, because as far as I know, it's a one flat fee and all you can eat, or all until Microsoft, the Azure, the tenant says you've had enough.
So they realize they can make more money that way.
Yeah. How about it? Now, and again, the point is, like, API limits are, this is how Power Automate works, right? Power Automate, if you did Power Automate in your dev plan or Teams, you will hit API limits when you try to get too much data too quickly. And in fact, they're low, so then you'll know that you've hit them because you're doing a lot of stuff. This is why the CUE can no longer be installed into, and they're going to deprecate it, into Dataverse for Teams. All right, they had like a COE version for that, but it really didn't do much. So people didn't really like it because it had partial capacity. And when they said, can you give me a workaround? I said, no, there is no workaround, right? They need that capacity. If I want to look at flows for the entire enterprise, I'm going to have to hit everybody. I'm going to have to break API limits that Teams has. Meanwhile, here I am in production. My limits are way higher. I can now hit like 100,000 rows, things like that, and go at it. But still, there are limits. And the point is, it's because if you think about it, it's like Power Automate, when you pay your license fee, you're getting a reserved amount of capacity and room that Microsoft says you paid this license, so now we will plan to make this much space for you at this particular time. And I will cut you off at the knees when you get to that point. And then I said, well, what if I'm going to have more? What if I can't predict what's going on? So Microsoft came up with, guess what? Pay as you go. Pay as you go says, we're going to take that out of here and we're going to put that now in Azure. So you got to go to Azure now to go follow your costs. You now have a thing in Azure, in your Azure calculator, that says, here's what it's costing you over here. They're eventually going to show that in the COE so you can keep track of those costs. But for now, that's where you got to go. And there's where you can break the limits or not even use capacity. So that in that case, instead of paying, like, say, the $20 license, I'm giving you the retail cost, you would pay maybe $5 in the pay as you go. Just throwing out an example there. This all depends on your EA and your deal with Microsoft on how you want to deal with it. But then the concept is that because it's pay as you go, it might only be $5 for the user that comes in every so often. But if you exceed capacity and go over, you're not paying for licenses extra. You're paying mostly for that capacity extra, pay as you go, compute time. They're charging you from Azure. Does that help? I shall move on. What else we have over here?
Yes.
Yes, additional language support. Actually, this is very true. This part, actually, when I was Ignite, there was a lot of people from a lot of different countries. This was a big deal for a lot of folks. The fact that the language and text recognition went beyond, apparently, the 20. There was only like 20 languages originally when things were out. They just suddenly blossomed to 164 languages. Huge deal. What's this other one? Okay, for the AI builder, multi-table extraction. So this was in the realm of UiPath and so those other systems that were competing with Microsoft. This was what Microsoft could not do. If you would say, well, you know, Microsoft, it's a toy, we're not using the Microsoft's thing. This one was it. Multi-table extraction. If you were doing like this in pure Azure and you were doing the development thing, you would simply build this because that's what you had to do. But the fact now is this is now in the product. And multi-table extraction, especially if you're doing complex invoices for different things, you need it's a must, because not everyone will have a simple invoice of like 5 lines. I mean, even the American Express bill looks worse than that. You can't even do that with the AI as it was before multi-table extraction. All right, proceeding down the line. The big news on the environment side, managed environments. Ooh, managed environments. What does that mean, Ralph? Managed environments. After all the talk about you must develop an environment strategy, you must set up your DLP, you must do all this work, they came about and said, you know what? How about if we do this all for you? Click a button and you make your environment managed. And now that managed environment, you can have a digest with notifications. You can control sharing. You can set data DLP specifically for it automatically. And every time, say you want to recreate your environment, make a new one, stand it up, take it down, you can just click the button and go. Look at that. Simple environment activation. Power Platform admins just simply click on like a selected set of managed environments and like, hey, the sales group from California just came online. They need to have an environment for themselves that's just like the sales group in New York, but with the difference is they're going to follow these rules. Okay, we hit the button on sales group environment. All the stuff gets set up, and then all they have to do is just do the minor tweaks to work out the California version of that environment. But there's a big catch. The big catch with the managed environment, of course, is to make all that stuff happen is you need Dataverse to be in there, because it sits on Dataverse. The data that supports it is in Dataverse, which means that let's just say at the very least that users that are going to be in there, if they're going to be using the assets that are in there, have to be licensed. This is the part that I'm still waiting on a little bit more guidance. What exactly does it mean? Does it mean that as soon as you join a member to that environment that they have to be licensed instantly? We do know that if you have to use an app that's in there that happens to be controlled by the managed environment, which means it's controlled by a solution, which means it's using Dataverse, does that mean that they have to pay now, or is that still something that the developer needs to pay? Who needs to pay? That's not quite clear yet. However, this is the fact that this is generally available says that we're going to find out what that story is pretty soon, for the most part. Again, the idea though is it's a managed environment is Dataverse, which means the active existing means there's got to be a license for at least the owner to set it up and to control it. You remember how it is with a dev tenant and you try to set up a new production environment, then it tells you, oh, you've exceeded your 1 gig limit, you now have to pay. Same thing here. If I spin up a managed environment, if I better have capacity, I better have paid for that to get that going. That's the difference between, say I made an environment, did DLP on it, maybe it doesn't have any Dataverse turned on, but I did the DLP, I have the stuff, and I wrote a script that creates it. And I want to create another environment. So I get the script and I make it. Doesn't cost me at all. However, I made a script, I had to maintain it and do all the stuff. This one is push button and go. All right. That's a pretty interesting one. Power Pages is now generally it's accepted. It's out there. Goodbye portals. Hello Pages. This is what this is over here. The Design Studio, very cool. The Templates Hub. I think we didn't exactly. I think we're going to have a Power Pages thing. You for sure come over to the one of those sessions that are out there on the M365 Chicago or one of those later on. There will be a talk about Power Pages in there, and there are so many videos on this right now, so it's easy to see. So you can see Power Pages, but right now just know it's generally released. The licensing model that they're talking about over here, I like this. The licensing model simplifies the daily sign-ins. Now, technically speaking, that was already simple with Power Portals because it was essentially by views and sign-ins. That's how you paid to access it, right? But the person that created it still needed a license to create the Power page. The person creating still needs that license to be able to do it. That has not changed. The difference will be what is the actual licensing model for the sign-ins. That actually is changing. We know that Microsoft's changing it. They said they're going to change it. They didn't say what it is. Well, they told us MVPs what those changes might be. And of course, there was a big, just to know, there was a big to do about what those changes might be. And I think my licensing class might come back because of that. But it's still, the idea is access via sign-in. So if you pay, I'll give you an example. I think right now, what is it, $2 or $3 or something per sign-in that comes in, and then you basically pay as many of those that come in, and you can buy, and that you'd have to pay as you're going along. I believe that price is getting reduced. However, I think what they don't talk about what the minimums are to go in. In the old model, the problem was with the old model is like there's so much dataverse space that you got with your stuff. Otherwise, you had to pay capacity. The newer model is probably going to remove that that restriction, because people will realize if this needs to be used, you can't be on the same constraint as your Power Apps. This is why Power Apps and Pages were separated from each other, because if you got a Power Apps license, you got your 400 megabytes of space, and then with that, you can create a Power Portal, you can create an app, whatever, but then you still had that 400 megs. Well, geez, if I'm doing a Power Portal and I have to share that same 400 megs as my apps and everything else, I'm going to run out of space in no time. That's going to be gone, right? And they said, well, if we made it a separate product now and you're getting it, you don't have that restriction anymore. Make your Power App, you keep your 400 megs. You don't need that for your Power Page to be created. And I think the Dataverse space that goes with that off the bat with Power Pages has gone up at least to a couple of gigs. As of the exact, I'd have to go take a look. All right, next one, Power BI. What's going on in Power BI over here? Power BI in Office installer. Is that a big deal for the IT folks? It is. Yep. IT folks, it's a big deal, because right now the only way to get Power BI manually is like more manual, or worse, if you have an organization that's really tight on controls, it's like let's just say pulling teeth to ask them to give you Power BI, because it's in the store and the store might be locked down. I can download it, but it wants to go to the store. I can try to steal an executable from somebody who downloaded it before and it got put in somewhere. Maybe that'll work. Oh, it's a pain for folks that in heavy organizations. If this is part of the rest of the ecosystem where it's part of the installs, we have a good thing going. Next one, view and edit Power BI reports directly from OneDrive and SharePoint. I can't tell you how that makes a humongous difference, because right now you need the client at all times to be able to do things. You had to download the Power BI desktop. If I found a IT or X sitting in a OneDrive, I need the client to be able to play with it. In this case, if you click it from SharePoint or click it from OneDrive, the web page comes up. That means I don't need to have the client, which means, you know what that means? That means I can also do it from the phone, from a pad, from any device. I'm not stuck with the client situation to do it. And for that matter, remember that earlier restriction? I can't go get the client. Well, now I can get to it. All right. What's this other one?
Yeah,
B2B.
that's pretty nice.
That's pretty nice. B2B data set sharing and reporting discoverability. So the concept over here, the data sharing feature, which they've included, the idea is to be able to give searchability, discovery, and connect to other data sets as long as it's in the home tenant. And of course, business to businesses that are connected, they can create new ports and data models within home tenants using shared data sets. How is this? Right now, if somebody wanted to use something that someone else created somewhere, it needs to be published somewhere. There needs to be communications. You can't hunt for it. You can't go do search somewhere and find it. Someone has to basically make it visible in some way, shape, or form somewhere. All right. You can't just find the stuff. This actually sets up the infrastructure wherein it's self-service. Go find it. As long as someone says it's shared, it's now here, come and get it. That's the concept over here. What do we got? Large data sets reporting support. Well, I thought they had this before, and then I began to realize, well, yes, there's always performance issues. What they're saying over here is they made it better. There's better support, better response. And I imagine that as much as that's better, I'm sure there's still limitations to it, but it's just a case of just being faster and being able to get more stuff. Let's see, easier migration to Power BI Premium. Of course, they're going to make it easy to go premium. In this particular case, they're using Azure Analysis Services to be able to migrate to Premium. with lower effort. Again, the idea is they want you to adopt, and they're just trying to just grease the wheels for your trip from expensive land to not so expensive land, or rather fixed expense land. All right, Power BI reports and data sets in a Power App solution. Well, what's happening here? So people know that we can actually stick a Power BI inside a Power App, and we can stick a Power App inside a Power BI. All right. So the problem was that Power Platform hasn't really supported the content that's deployed in there. When you put it in there, it's nothing more than an iframe. I'm looking inside here. It really doesn't connect to the outside, or you had to do like magic rigmarole to say, I just changed the data set filter in here, and I want something outside in the app to be updated at the same time as and all of this stuff. That actually works now. It actually works. All right, continuing on. Updates for Power Apps now in preview. Here's on the co-authoring in Modern App Designer. Co-authoring. This is the idea, of course, is like this has been out there for a while in preview. I believe.
I was gonna say,
I think this is actually.
I've seen this one for a while.
We've seen it for a while, but this one actually, I think it's GA. I think it's been in preview. The concept is you can have now multiple makers at the same time on the screen. This is a big difference between UiPath and some of the other ones than what they had before. Before, remember how it is? Someone else is opening up your Power App. It kicks you out. It's like, hey, someone else is using it. Shall I kick them out? Yep, they're gone. This is different. And actually, when it was in preview, it was sort of like though you had to have a GitHub account to make it work. Right? I think they got around the problem. You no longer need to have a GitHub account explicitly to do the so-called app sharing, because under the covers they were doing sort of like a sharing situation with the code, is how the GitHub thing was required was. Now they figured out how to do it without it. So that's a big deal. Integrated virtual agent in Power Apps. Okay, well, this one I'm surprised came pretty late, but it makes sense. And the concept over here is that the virtual agents piece, which was pretty much separate, and if you're doing it, you're pretty much on the outside. What they're saying is now it is more integrated into the Power App. So you can potentially create in like a text box, type in something, the virtual agent picks it up directly from that area. And surface to say, for example, you're doing a search for information back, just like you would go to the Power Agent, to the Power Virtual Agent, say via chatbot in Teams. Well, imagine you're in the app. You don't have to go to someplace else. Do it from there. That's what this means. Next thing, yes, bring out your cards in Power Apps. The hybrid world of looking at apps. The concept over here is using cards. Remember adaptive cards in SharePoint? That's it's been around there for quite a while. The concept of cards is being requested left and right all over the place. In this particular case, they've now made it more native to the Power App system. This is something wherein you can actually have a designer for the cards. And here's the thing: the UX folks that are doing this, they've done a lot of work with cards, say in SharePoint or even just in web in general. And it's like, well, we can't do this in Power App. There is nothing like that. We would have to create HTML from scratch, which means making a PCF from scratch. That's not necessarily easy work. You can do it. It's a great reward to do it, but that's custom. In this case, let's give you the framework for cards out of the box. So you're not creating a custom component. You're using the card component, and all the integration is ready to go. All right, continuing on. Dataverse supporting virtual tables. Oh, okay. This is actually important. What's a virtual table, Ralph? Virtual table here. Here's my Dataverse. You know what I can do with Dataverse, right? I can make model-driven apps. Can I make model-driven apps with SharePoint? No. Can I make model-driven apps with SQL? Nope. With OneDrive? Nope. Or anything else? No, I cannot. Model-driven apps only work from, model-driven apps are driven from a model that's in a database system that has all the frameworks and everything built in order to support it. Because without it, then how will the model know how exactly to lay things out, how to put all that stuff? That's a lot of work. Nope, we're not going to do it. Nope. But they started first with the version for SQL Server. And here's the difference. In the case of Dataverse, say, for example, you want to get that data in Dataverse. What would you used to do before? I need to get to that SQL data. So I would create an ETL or a data flow get the data in SQL, stick it into my Dataverse, and then now I can do my model-driven app. However, now I need a process that syncs the data back and forth, or that does an ETL overnight, or does something to that effect. Now imagine that there's a window to the data underneath, which they did first with SQL. There's a window underneath to that data, and that window is a two-way communication data, which means that if there's an update done here, it actually goes back to the original source. The data does not live in Dataverse. I'm not making a copy of the data. This is a view or a window to the original data. But what it does is I'm giving you a view to that data, and I'm putting on top of it all the infrastructure that makes it appear like a Dataverse table, hence virtual table. So now if I want to make a model-driven app from a table that's in quote unquote Dataverse, virtual or not, I can now create driven apps. Whew, what a big deal, right? So we had SQL as the first preview for that, and now they're going to allow you to do it from Excel. That's actually major, because sometimes Excel actually runs some businesses. The data is in Excel. They want the data to go back and forth to the Excel workbook. Sometimes the data is in SharePoint, right, directly. They want the data to go back and forth to it, but they can't write code or have to transfer it, or there's so many lines, or there's so much IP going on over there, and they need to be able to have back and forth and not have to write and maintain a whole bunch of code. So this is a big deal on how this is working. So now this is, as you can see over here, and there's an update, what's going on over here. The update coming in early 2023. Table automatically generated with the correct schema and integration. This is still coming, but this is a humongous deal. Model-driven apps are actually the fastest way to quickly come up with an app that does so much work. It may not be in the format you want, but there's ways to make changes for that. But especially for the folks that are like combining with Dynamics, this pretty much brings it in. All right. Hey, that's it for platform stuff. Whew. There was some other, by the way, so there were some other disclosures worthy of a deep dive. I want to go through this one really quick. This was actually, and I say disclosure because I remember them talking about it at Ignite. I did not quite see this directly in the book of news, but there were sessions on it. And I call this the revenge of the pro dev. We're in from the CLI, which is essentially a command line, you know, the realm of the quote unquote pro devs. They could automatically create a Power App from a REST API. How does this work, you might ask? All right, so here's an API, a REST API. I stick in the URL, and then I use the CLI and says make an app from it. And then all of a sudden, it creates an app. This is not like the Figma, right, where it's like, oh, yeah, you just drew some boxes, I'm going to figure out like a layout for you. No, this is like, remember the sample app that you do? It's like, here's a SharePoint table, make an app from it. Boom, and then it gives you all that stuff, the gallery and the edit and all that pieces with you. Same thing. What it does, though, it's a little bit smarter because it looks at the API, looks at the get, puts, and all that stuff, and figures out from that an app that's essentially an accelerated version so that you can start developing from it. And the idea over here is a lot of people are making custom APIs, REST APIs, or have to connect to custom REST APIs. So what do? It's like, okay, I got to study the API. Now I got to make an app that connects to it, and I got to build all that stuff from scratch. Or it'll be the other way around. Well, I know I need to connect to that data. Then they write the app, the front end, and then they have to go and make the REST API match it. How about just start from really where it belongs to happen? Start from the REST API, build that sucker, get that stuff to work, test the heck out of it, get your Postman and do all that and get that going. And now hit this button, poof, starting point for your app. Yes. And some links over here. I think we're going to share this as chat over here. Hey, how are we doing for time here? I'd like to play 6:40. I'd like to play this one. It's only about 10 minutes, but this one I'd like to co-share. You know what when they have an Ignite party, what they say is like you get to watch like whole sessions together. Well, we're not going to watch a whole session together, but this is worthy. Remember that AI thing I told you we wanted to deep dive? I was going to like talk all about it, maybe try it out. This is much better. Take a look. If you can't hear, let me know.
Special show to look at the latest updates to Microsoft's Power Platform that make building low-code apps and processes easier than ever. From AI-assisted app development through Express Design that lets anyone move quickly from ideation, even on paper, to automatic Power App creation, to how you can tie those apps to business processes using natural language to generate automated workflows in Power Automate. And if you're in IT, we're going to show you how to manage environments, provide the foundation for better management and governance over data that's used in your apps and flows, and much more. And joining us to go through all the updates with the Power Platform is CVP Charles Lamanna. Welcome back.
Thanks. Looking forward to it and super excited to be in the brand new amazing studio in person.
And it's really great to have you back on.
I pause it here. Essentially, I just did a lot of these updates, but they're going to do it in much faster form than me. But at least you'll get the idea and you'll get to see that Ralph wasn't just...
Because every time you join us, it's amazing to see just how quickly things are evolving in the space of low-code apps, especially with the infusion of more and more intelligence, into the app and also the process and even bot creation experience.
Right. This is a big focus for us, and we think this is a really unique place where AI can make a huge difference for users and customers. There's a bunch of new capabilities in this area that we've delivered over the past 18 months. For example, we've integrated the OpenAI GPT-3 natural language model with PowerFX to let you use natural language and build PowerFX queries without knowing any code at all, like what you're seeing right here with Power Apps Ideas, which is now generally available. And we also have a capability called Programming by Example, where you can just tell Power Apps what your desired output is, and Power Apps will work out the formulas to get you there using prose and natural language.
And a fun fact, by the way, this is actually using the same tech that Flashfill and Excel uses, as well as IntelliCode and Visual Studio.
That's exactly right. We're able to take advantage of all this amazing technology from Microsoft Research and Azure AI, and even more recently from the OpenAI partnership to really turbocharge these experiences.
And to put this into context, there's already more than 7 million Power Platform developers. So the easier that you and your team can make things, the easier it's going to be to bring your ideas to life.
And we know that because we're seeing firsthand how our customers are using the platform. With new capabilities that we've enabled, like Express Design and natural language to flow, we're now at the point where if you can think of it or dream of it, you can build it in the Power Platform. Some of the best ideas, in fact, start out in the back of a napkin. So now you can literally take a rough sketch or mock-up and build a working app from it. Here's a piece of paper where I've hand designed an app that we want to use to manage a sign-up experience for a team morale event.
I think I like where this is going.
Yes, just wait, it's going to be amazing. Earlier, I took a picture of this paper using my phone, and you'll see it's pretty basic. I have a name and an email field. Below that is a drop-down to select a meal option. And then there are two open write-in fields for allergies or special requests and accessibility or mobility needs. I've added a question for whether they would like a reminder email. And finally, I've added a submit button. Now we can take my hand-drawn app sketch and convert it into a Power App. In Power App Studio, I'll start an app from an image. You'll see here that this is great to build simple apps like mine. Next, I'll give the app a name like event registration. And now I'll upload the image we were looking at before. It automatically recognizes that the image is in portrait layout and recommends the phone format.
Oh, by the way, folks, I recommend you try this on your dev plan or on your tenant. It works.
I'll stick with that. And this will take a second to process the image. You'll see it uses optical character recognition, or OCR, to interpret my handwriting. It's interpreting my text labels, the text input fields, my drop-downs, the radio button controls, and even the submit button. I can easily make a few edits. First, I want to change the name of one of these drop-downs. I'll change this one to a toggle control, and that's it.
And that's super impressive, and I really have to compliment you on your amazing handwriting as well. So now we've built the app front end directly from that amazing hand-drawn sketch, but what about the app's backend and the data you'll start to collect with it?
So that's the next step, and we can automatically generate the data backend for you in the same process. All I need to do is select the first option to create a new table in Dataverse. And if I'm not sure what data I need, I could skip this entirely, but I'm going to go ahead and let it set up my Dataverse environment.
Hey, Ralph,
When I
sorry,
do
how
that,
much are you
you'll
gonna
see that we can
watch
make
of this?
edits to it.
We can go through it. You want me to fast forward through some stuff here?
I gotta need to drop in the next 5 minutes. So
Oh,
if you want to
okay.
continue to lead, that's good. But I just need to. I'm gonna
All
have
right.
to.
Let's go ahead so we can have a complete show as we're going along, so we can have for the folks that are watching it. They can always go to this main site over here. We'll share the URL to it. But the idea is to include it on here so that when people are looking at it, they don't have to go to more than one place. All right. Just go ahead and just let me know when you're on your way. We'll pause and say goodbye to Craig as we go along.
You want
Ready?
to put the link in the chat? Maybe?
Yes. Let me get the copy the video URL. Here we go. Let's go find. Uh-oh. I hope it remembers where I was.
That's fine. Sorry.
I'm putting it into the chat. Not sure who will see.
But we started this almost an hour ago exactly,
Right.
because we started 10 minutes early. So
In fact, here's the here it is in the chat. I'm not sure if you see it. I'm going to have to send it to Raquel here in just a moment. Let me get my mail out of the way quick. I'm going to send it to Raquel so she can post it onto the site over there. Yes. Yes, there's Raquel's email, but that's okay. She gets spammed all the time. Here we go. Post to site. And here's the URL. MS bits. And send. And go. And let's see if it remembers where I was. And no, it doesn't. So let me get over here.
My Dataverse environment updates inputs in real time. Exactly. For now, I'll keep the design as is and take care of that later.
Okay. So we're going to just continue from this part right over. Let's go back a little bit. Somewhere just before he creates the database. And it's going to be right over here. Okay. We're good, Mr. Craig. Shall we proceed?
Yep.
All right, proceeding.
Entirely, but I'm
Oh, I'm
going to
gonna
go
drop
ahead
off,
and
though.
let it
I'm
set up
sorry.
my
All right, sir.
Dataverse environment.
So remind
When
When I
everybody
do
that,
that,
we have
you'll see that we
M365
can make
Chicago after you
edits.
get done.
Oh, yes. So I'll do the reminders and I'll do the notes and what happens next. There'll be a next steps and where to go.
Awesome. Thank you. Nice
All
meeting you.
righty. Thank
Nice seeing you,
you.
Naveen.
We'll see you all. And Naveen, thanks for sticking around. Let's go ahead and watch the rest of this because you might have more questions. And I'll
We
watch
already
the
had
chat for
Keith.
it.
Keith came in from nowhere, so we got
Oh,
another
good,
person down
Keith.
here.
If you have questions, post them onto the chat for what's going on in here. We get to actually have live Q&A on stuff that someone else produced. How about
Good
that?
night. Thanks.
Take care.
To its predictions.
Here we go.
Here, I'll change this column's data type to email.
Uh-oh. Play.
Also, it validates inputs in real time.
I keep hitting the wrong button. One more
And I'll
time.
take one last look at the data fields. Everything looks good, so let's create it. That'll run for a moment, so to save us time, we'll speed things up a little bit. And there's my app, complete with a data backend from a hand-drawn sketch.
So now you just have to make a few tweaks maybe to some of the design or the controls of the app.
Exactly. For now, I'll keep the design as is and take care of that later. But the next thing I'm going to do is to make sure that it has all the selections that we need. So to complete our meal selection, I'll add poached salmon, add a vegetable salad, and it's making me hungry just writing this up and wiring up this control. And let's try it out. I'll type in my name just to make sure our app is working. And now each time an attendee interacts with my Power App, it's capturing the data rows in my Dataverse environment so that the team has the information on hand to help plan the event.
And of course, before the data starts to roll in, it's probably a good time to add whatever workflow that you need to automate for a specific task related to your event.
Right, and that's where the new AI capability of natural language to flow comes in. It infuses AI into the workflow creation process with Power Automate and Power FX. In our app, we want attendees to get confirmation that they're registered and organizers to receive an update on new registrations. Let me show you how easy this can be. I'll start by creating a simple flow that responds to the app we just built using a confirmation email. Here you can see in Power Automate, I have this new option that says you describe it, AI builds it. I can build my flow using natural language. And in this case, I want to send an email confirmation to each person who registers. So I'll just paste in, when a new record is updated in Dataverse, send an email. The AI will suggest a flow to me and I can preview its actions and triggers. Optionally, I can enter a few fields here to save time in the next step. I'll search for and select the event registration table I created earlier. And I want to use dynamic content in a second for the emails to line, so I'll leave that blank for now. I will add a subject though, saying registration confirmed, then click create for my flow. Now inside of my flow, for the to line, I'll add the email that was entered in our app as dynamic content. There it is. And in the body of the email, I can also use dynamic content to personalize email with their full name. And to save time, I'll just paste that in a simple message, and that's it. And these can get even more powerful too. Let's say as the event organizer, I want to get a daily update of all the new registrations that have been created that day. I'll create a new flow and using the natural language input again, but this time I'm going to say once a day, get all rows from a Dataverse table and send an email. The AI engine has given me a great flow with a built-in recurrence for this to get started. This flow has a few steps in it to build a list of registrants, and to save time, I won't show the rest of the details here to finish it, but here's an example of a status email with all the information the organizer would need to see a daily status and plan for the meal order. So with Power Automate, you have the flexibility to build simple or complex flows just using natural language to get started.
So your app and your process workflow were built without any code whatsoever. So now you've shown us how anyone really can take a paper prototype and bring that into a fully functional app using Express Design. But can it also work with maybe a more sophisticated app design?
Yes, it can. And what we see sometimes is these applications evolve and you want higher end and more professional design experiences. And for that, you may turn to a professional designer who uses a tool like Figma. So when this happens, Express Design lets users and developers use the tools they know and love to prototype app design and directly translate from Figma into a Power App. Here, I have the next version of our event planning app already designed in Figma. You'll see immediately that it is a lot better looking than our simple app from before. Now, from the Power App Studio, I just need to connect to our Figma design. And to do that, I'll create a new app from Figma. I just need to give it a name, paste in the Figma URL for that particular app. And of course, this is designed to be secure, so I just need to generate an access token from Figma settings in this case, and copy it over in my clipboard and back into Power App Studio. I'll paste it in, and I'll choose a format, which in this case is still phone. Now it's converting my design to an app. There it is. You'll see that each page here, as I navigate through them, is a pixel-perfect translation of my Figma design in the Power App Studio. And both of these Express Design methods that I've demonstrated today are in preview now, and you can go try it out now.
So having built apps, and what I really like about this is that, your app design requirements and the implemented underlying code, they're not going to be at odds with one another, which really can accelerate development, also minimize the rework that would happen. It's going to also encourage a lot more people to build low-code apps. With that said, I know that there's probably a lot of our IT audience watching, dreading the thought of all these amazing apps accessing their data.
I hear you, and I hear the IT admins. The number one request we get is how do they have better visibility and more control over the apps and flows being built inside of their organization, as well as the data that they access. And while we built a ton of controls into the Power Platform Admin Center, we're making things even easier with a new governance capability called Manage Environments. It gives you more visibility, more control, and with even less effort. First, for visibility, here's something brand new. It's a weekly email digest that the service automatically sends you with trending activities, potential things to clean up, popular apps and flows, plus any environments that need licensing attention. It's also providing recommendations to take action. And if I scroll back up, I can tap into this event registration environment right here, and it's linked me directly to where I can take action. If I tap into Home, and here's where I activate Manage Environments. And once you've done that, you'll see in the Manage Environment Insights, I have this great dashboard with top makers, top apps, and top flows, as well as the least used ones. And from here at the top, I can also see a few licensing details and make adjustments for license assignments.
Right, and because this experience finds the insights about all these different environments, it's also going to make things a lot more proactive. So what does it take then to make an environment, maybe like the one we created with our hand-drawn sketched app, into a managed environment?
It's pretty simple. All I have to do is I can convert through the Admin Center any environment into a managed environment. From the Admin Center, I just need to select my environment and hit Enable Manage Environments. And now I'm presented with options to limit sharing, run security and reliability validations, share usage insights, and more. I'll start by configuring sharing limits where I can restrict.
Let me stop this one for a moment. Take a look. See, once enabled, all end users will need Power Apps and Power Automate licenses to continue using apps and flows in this environment. Remember the part I was talking about earlier for licenses? I wanted to stop right over there. This is what I wanted to confirm, actually, and he's showing it right over there, view licensing details. So in some environments, right, even if there's Dataverse in it, there's some apps that are in there that may not be using Dataverse at all, that are just sitting in the environment, and people are using it. They're not paying for license because it's just an app. They're using their seeded, what's called the seeded license. In other words, the freebie version of their Power Apps because they have like an E3 or an E5 that comes in. They're using it. What they're saying is, if it's in a managed environment, and now to use that app, they need a license just to use that same app. This is a potential sticking point for a lot of folks. Is, oh, geez, now we have to pay for the licenses. The whole point, though, what they're trying to say is, if you're going to pay for a license for somebody, you might as well go all hog wild and convert. If you were using like collections or using SharePoint or something before, and you could have used Dataverse instead or something like that, you might as well upgrade and start using the tools to its full extent. What's the point of paying for a license when you could have had it and not have to pay originally? Why would you want to have it in a managed environment and then all of a sudden have to pay? The managed environment says if you're in a managed environment, you're now part of this group that's being controlled. You're essentially paying a cover charge to be protected by security, quote unquote. Or you can be out there in defense, out there in the wild. Not exactly wild, but out there. All right. And that is the big difference. So I wanted to show that as a very important piece for everyone to understand that that's the big change. As far as exactly when to use it, at some point we'll come up with strategies for that. But yeah, there it is. Again,
how widely Canvas apps and solution flows that use sensitive information can be shared.
Check it out.
And I can also block sharing with security groups, or I can restrict sharing to only security groups or exclude them, which has been one of our top requests from customers. We also give you more control over what apps get published into production. I can configure the solution checker, which contains dozens of security rules, and it will automatically run security and reliability checks as I import solutions. And I can set this to warn or block depending on what I configure. And to get emails like I showed earlier, I can opt into getting usage insights for this environment and whether I want the insights to appear on my Admin Center homepage, as well as in the weekly email digest, along with who will receive the email. I can also add a welcome message when first-time makers open the Power App Studio. And I can set up data policies to help safeguard data by limiting the connectors available to this environment. And once I've got everything configured, I just need to enable it. And now this environment is a secure low-code environment.
And I think these are really going to be welcome additions, especially for IT admins that are watching. And in fact, we've got a dedicated show coming up that will go even deeper on managed environments. And
before he goes on about that, the COE has some of those tools in it. Those tools deprecate, they're different. In the case of, for example, the welcome message, there is a tool in the COE specifically that does that. Does it from an app. It does it from a flow. There's updates for that. In fact, that particular app allows for localization. This one does not. All right, this one is the straight message. You see that there's only one box, one message in there. What if you had to do localization? Sorry, but that's not there yet. So this is their way of coming up and catching up with some of the COE pieces, but they're not quite there yet. There's still a usage for the COE. So would you turn this on if you have the COE? If you're in a managed environment, probably. But if you're not in the managed environment, continue to use the COE tool. And you can, by the way, tell the COE tool which environments are affected as well. All right.
And for everything else you've shown today, I'm really excited to see what's next.
And there's a lot of great stuff coming when it comes to app creation or workflow creation or management of environments. And we love to hear feedback from our customers and users. So let us know what else you'd like to see. There's just so much available right now. For example, I also just want to take a second, and it's worth mentioning, we just added our 5th member to the Power Platform with Power Pages, and it's now generally available today. It gives you a new low-code way of building your websites and comes with a bunch of customizable layouts to choose from, along with colors and text styles. And as I always say, don't just take it from me. You can try everything I showed you today for yourself. Just go to powerplatform.microsoft.com to get started, and you can check out my blog for many of our recent updates this fall at aka.ms/powerplatformignite22.
Thanks so much, Charles, for stopping by and always keeping things interesting.
Thanks,
and
Charles.
Covering all the ground that we covered today. And also, of course, be sure to keep checking back to Microsoft Mechanics for all the latest updates. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.
This is a great channel, by the way.
Thank you for watching.
Good stuff here. When you want to really get like, a little nerdy, this is the place to go. Okay. All right, we got through the whole video. Let's go see if we can get to the next page over here. All righty. Really quick look at some of the sessions that were our favorites that were out here. Well, not exactly favorites and recommendations. These are sessions and table topics. So here's the thing. This was a hybrid session. I actually spoke at this. In fact, you see where it says this looks familiar? I was a speaker at this one. This no code approval process, these are links, by the way, to the actual sessions. And by the way, anyone now, if you go to the Ignite site, you don't have to actually have been registered to attend or anything else. All that information, if it was streamed and recorded, is available, but not everything. Sessions, yes. So sessions like this, the Shapeshifter, Power App, PCF Showcase, the no code approval process, that was with SharePoint Laura herself that was doing it. And I was one of the SMEs that was brought in to actually talk there. So actually, that was a great honor to have been invited into that particular conversation to go. But they were talking about approval process and best practices, things like that. Some of these other ones is streamlining the low-code governance. Well, that's the governance piece we were looking at. Expert meetups that was there, for example, the expert meetup may or may not have been recorded. These ones like the scaling and security and the custom connectors, that definitely, actually, that's really good. It's very, very, very technical, almost like a 300-400 level. Pro Code Enterprise. Some of these over here are actual tools that people have put together. What I was there for a partner. I was there for Sogeti, for Capgemini, and this was our table topic, which is basically a non-recorded. It was supposed to have been an intimate round table of around 20 people or so, and let's talk about enterprise productivity and get people to deal with that. But they had these pods that are open. So imagine Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's being held outdoor in the park. You're probably not going to get people talking about their problems too much. So that's essentially what happened. So some people said a few things, but I ended up doing most of the talking. But that in that particular case, that was a good subject. If someone wants to talk to me about that, sure, you can. You can go ahead and ping me on LinkedIn and everything else, and we can go through it. But otherwise, that was my topic that was out there. So there's a link to it, so you can see it. It's going to show that you can't see anything about it, but everything else you can. But wait, there's more stuff. There was other announcements that were there that they sort of covered, and again, in those table topics, they covered a little bit of that, or they were covered in peripheral within those conversations. So go ahead, click on that QR code, and you can go ahead and see what's out there. But let's go ahead and see these particular announcements in detail. So the first one, well, cards, we saw that one. Cards was definitely part of the main announcements. So this wasn't really an Ignite announcement. Look at the date. September 20th. So well before Ignite, Ryan Cunningham, another person I got a chance to meet while I was there and talk to directly and just say, be fanboy about all the good stuff. And of course, report other important information, but that's on the side. We didn't talk about cards, but this one is actually a good one to see how this works. And I like this because it shows a video of exactly what that looks like, the card experience inside of the Power App. This is actually, it's a paradigm. If you're doing forms and you're doing this kind of thing, this is a way of life of doing it this way versus doing a form. So very highly recommended, especially if you have the UX folks saying, hey, I can do this, you can't. Yes, I can. Here it is. What else do we have? So of course, they're just showing all the power of doing cards. The co-authoring in Power Apps, we talked about it a little bit, and they're showing over here the fact that this has been out for a little while already, but here it is, and they're talking about it in its release. It actually came out a month before Ignite. But here's one that's not covered. It's called Maker Matchmaking. What is Maker Matchmaking? Would integrate basically Maker Matchmaking connects the makers with in-context help and qualified organizations. Now, organizations that participate in this and set this up says that I need help. I'm trying to do something in my Power App. And you know how it is, some people feel alone. I'm the only one doing this. Maybe I'll go to a Yammer site and maybe somebody might respond or something like that. This is an organization, where's my screen? This is an organization that comes out and says, we're going to actively nurture our people and go for adoption and actually set up the infrastructure we're in. If they type in and look for a friend, basically phone a friend, through this system, they will actually find someone. We'll actually set this up. And this can be set up to actually point at partners for the company at not Microsoft. It wouldn't be Microsoft because that'd be a different deal. Microsoft's not in that business. So it'll be partners, the outsourced third parties and everything else, or people within the organization. And that's the whole idea over here. It's not a help desk, all right? It's essentially a community nurturer, for lack of a better term. But I wanted to mention that one in particular because if your organization is serious about essentially the community, building the community, I think this is an essential tool. All right. All right. In conclusion, here's your next steps for that you can take on your Power Platform journeys, and then essentially following through those links and everything else. And remember, we are LinkedIn. You can find us. Get to our YouTube site. Get through that. Join if you're coming in from the web. From YouTube and you're looking at us, join the site, please. Come actually be part of the teams so we can actually see your questions right over here. You can go on screen. You can be famous or not so famous. We'll recognize witness protection and digitize you immediately. Whatever you need, that's the suggestion on the following up. Our meetings are last Wednesdays of the month. Just watch your mail. They haven't always been regular. We're going to try to keep them regular as much as we can. But otherwise, the rule of thumb is that's when they are. And of course, there's our link again to that, to our user group. That's I'm just going to keep it there slow. You can take a picture of it and manually get there. But otherwise, we'll try to set up a QR code when I save this sheet. I should say this page next. It will set up a QR code for that. And of course, to find other Power Platform groups, you can just go looking for groups. All right, we got a couple of people that might still be here. I'm not sure if you guys are still, but I can take questions. Who's here anyway? Anyone left? At least on the team site. I see at least. I see folks that were in the chat that came through, and they're on their way. Looks like there's some thank yous and no questions. So we're probably just going to look for questions that show up on the chat or people that talk to us everywhere else. But otherwise, that is our presentation for this particular user group. Thanks for those who came in live. Thanks for those who are watching this later on and sat through the whole thing. And I want to thank Raquel for being our producer for this show. And we're going to sign out and go into an end screen if we can for a little while and then sign out.